Well, really, debt is debt. I don't know that there's a difference. I mean, what we got to look at is what are we paying for each one, okay? And what we should be paying off is the one we're paying the most for, okay? And we need to come up with solutions. And you know, I'm not going to give David credit, but he's right. Why are we in certain businesses that we shouldn't be in, or government?
What's the difference?
The golf course debt was something we went into presumably eyes open. We knew what we'd have to pay back, what the schedule was, how much it would be at the end. The pension debt is open-ended, it's variable, market performs, market doesn't perform, we have to absorb the impact of that. And the people who gave those promises years ago are, you know, they wrote checks that we're now having to pay back. They took it out on credit cards that we're now having to pay back, and you didn't know how much the upper limit would be.
Well, I hate to say it, but I basically agree with David. The golf course debt, I think, is somewhat like a mortgage where, you know, it was set up where you make payments on a schedule where it gets paid down and it doesn't increase as long as you make the payments on time. Whereas the pension situation, it fluctuates with market, with how many employees you have, how much they contribute or don't contribute, and so you can't just say if I pay $1 million extra every year, then I'm going to get it to where I want it to be, because there's so many forces that are moving at it.
Yes, so I agree about the golf course debt in terms of being
Okay.
in terms of being similar to a mortgage or credit card debt. With the pension debt,
I'm sorry, the golf course debt is what?
Similar to a mortgage or credit card debt, if one carries a balance on their credit card.
Okay.
In regards to the pension debt, having studied actuarial mathematics, I also know that there's probabilities involved in terms of looking at the actuarial tables and determining the uncertainty of life in terms of you know, mortality rates, and that also is a factor in.
That's the least of your problems with the pension.
In regards to the calculation, but it is part of the calculation.
That is part of the calculation.
And so when we have,
that is not what's driving your unfunded liability. It's a small factor, but that is not what's driving your unfunded liability. But go ahead, yeah.
Yep, and there are some other changes we.
But talk about the difference between the two debts, as you were saying. You were starting to say. I just, you know, you said, you know, I mean, you. If you're going to say that that you understand the actuarial part of it, that is not what's driving the big problem you have today. It's not the life expectancy. Life expectancy is going to add some, and it's going to get worse because CalPERS is about to readjust that. But that's not the biggest. That's a small part of what's driving your pension debt today. Go ahead. Yeah.
Right, but that does add a slight modification to looking at the debt versus the golf course debt. The golf course debt doesn't have as many variables in terms of the calculation. It's a bit more straightforward, whereas with the pension debt, there's so many more variables and so many more items that can really determine that size of the debt.
Let me ask, I'm going to sweep right back through, and you raised it. Let me get clarification from each of you on a point that you sort of raised here, Olivia.
Okay.
What does the pension debt, the unfunded liability, represent?
It represents the total cost should we have to pay it out today. So should everyone retire today and want to collect their pension?
For future service, for past service?
Current employees.
Current employees for future service, for past service?
For past service.
Kathy?
I agree with that.
David?
The unfunded liability is, we're always paying into CalPERS the amount that they save in order to meet the obligation. So the unfunded liability is a projection into the future of how well the fund is performing or not performing against those future debts that we need to pay. And it's a metric that you can look at to see how well we're achieving that. So there's AMA and what is it? FBA and MBA. There's different ways of doing that. So to me, it's a metric on how well the pension is performing. It's not a check that's due instantly right that date.
Well, to me, it's it's what we pay to maintain a system that doesn't work very well, and that's it's not comparative to the business world that we have out there. The market's very volatile. We don't know what it's going to do, and you know, we can impact new people to the system by offering them a different process. But for the ones that we have in the past, we have obligations. And that's
So
just
what does
what it is.
unfunded liability represent?
To me, it represents what we owe to maintain what we have for the employees that we have, their retirement system.
On this one, you two are right. It's for the past service. It's the liability for past